always been writing love stories, and I was taking a course at Davis that was about reading the Bible as literature. So I was studying with a really fascinating professor, and there's a line in Genesis that I came across that talks about a group of angels who fell in love with mortal women. And that's where it all started. That's the line that intrigued me so much, and I just thought, this is a huge love story. I mean, all the little love stories I've been writing all along have sort of been prepping me for something really big, and it felt like just this great big gift had been sort of dropped into my lap, and I started thinking about what kind of woman it would take to attract an angel's attention and make it, you know, the angels eventually, these angels that fell in love with these mortal women were cast out of heaven for their lust because they chose lust or love or whatever over God. So it seemed like such an enormous, complicated love story to tell, the choice between heaven and love. So that's where it all began. I was very nervous right before Fallen came out because my publisher was really behind it, and they were very excited about it, and they kept saying this is going to be so great. And I, you know, about a week before the book came out, I just was like biting my nails in panic attack mode, like, I'm going to let everyone down. This is going to be a total flop, you know. And when it wasn't, it's just been a thrill, you know. It's the best part is getting to connect with other people who are reader. You know, I'm such an avid reader. I'm such a lover of books that to get to talk to a whole new bunch of people about books, not just mine, but everything that they love to read it's really been wonderful, and it's really been inspiring. And I think that's a big part of actually why I've had a better time writing Torment than Fallen, because I've felt very supported and very inspired. A question I get a lot from teen readers is, how do I deal with writer's block? And I guess that what I'm talking about right now is writer's block, or it's just like a complete lack of inspiration. And the only thing I've learned how to do is persevere and push through it, because I think if I stopped, it used to be that I would say, I'm feeling uninspired, I'll just go for a walk and come back tomorrow. And I think if I tried to do that now, nothing would ever get done. It's sort of a luxury I can't afford anymore, to just wait for inspiration to strike each time. So I just write through it, and I have a lot of days, especially in that middle period, where it's 8 pages that I've cranked out in a day, and I know none of them will appear in the book, but I had to do it so that I could get to the next day and write the next 8 pages, and then you'll cut that whole section, but there's a lot of times it's an emotion or a little piece of backstory that you won't even remember that you conceived of that day, but it'll pop back up 3 days from now. You'll put it in there. And I guess that makes it worthwhile, worth pushing through. The endings are usually the easiest. I guess it's the middle. Because I'm excited each time I sit down to come back to the series. I've been really excited to get back into it. And so the first few chapters are really fun. I mean, they're challenging, but I guess there's a certain momentum at the beginning. The middle is usually a pretty bad slog for me, and it gets to where you think you might never be able to finish it, and you're tearing out your hair and like forgetting to take showers and things like that. But then there's always like a tipping point. For this book, it happened really late. I remember it being like page 250 through the first draft, and like finally it's feeling good, and then you just roll downhill. Because I do see the shape of the book in terms of plot, and so the emotion does not always match up with what I expect to have happened. So that's what I was saying earlier. That's where I have to kind of let myself off the hook and go here when I thought I would be going here, just to follow an emotion. It's usually to follow an emotion.
Because that's the hot stuff.
Yeah,
right? I mean, that's the
exactly.
stuff that surprises you.
Exactly, and that's when it's fun, and you know that you've created something that's living. Finish your book. That's the best writing advice I ever got, and it sounds so simple that it almost doesn't seem like it's worth mentioning, but the first book I ever wrote was for my college senior thesis, and it was sort of whatever it was a mess, you know, and I had fun writing it, and I was nearing the end, and I knew already that it wasn't going to go anywhere. It was just a scrap project, and I had a great idea for the second book that I wanted to write that I was really excited about, and I just wanted to move on. And I was talking to an older friend of mine who is a writer, and I said, I'm just going to give this up. and I'm going to move on to do the next thing. And she said, no, finish it, just so that you know that you can. I didn't really get it at the time, but I said, okay, and it was 30 more pages I had to write, or whatever it was, and so I finished the book, and I put it away, and it's buried somewhere in my computer, I don't know, but when I wrote that second book, which didn't end up being that great either, and I got towards the end, I didn't want to give up until I had finished it, and so I finished it. And then I wrote the third book, which was Fallen, and by then I knew, even though I doubted myself at a lot of points during the rough draft, I just knew that I had done it twice before, and so I could. I think the difference between a lot of people who want to write books, or a lot of people who are working on their novel, and the people who have novels published, is just that they finished it. It's just like sort of a lesson in perseverance. All of publishing is a lesson in perseverance.